Hey, Rich Jason, welcome back to Dungeonology, the Expedition. This is for the Rocca Civetta Kickstarter expansion box, video part 3. If for some reason you haven't checked out parts 1 and 2, quick review of them. Part 1, we went over all the different scholars and bosses pictured on here, a bunch of different new characters. Definitely check out if you want to see what new playable characters or what bosses you can go against, as well as their cool mechanics. In video 2, we went over all of lots of the cards. Clan cards, Jinx cards, Panic cards, the 2 new trick decks we have, the new congregation students with their things, the interns, some familiars, some cool stuff in there. Now, this video, we're going to go over the couple of brand new modes. I was going to say 2, but there's kind of 3. We have Omega. We get fight against the Omega mode in solitary mode. So we're going to take a look over that. We're going to look over the campaign mode. There's also then kind of a side one, is we do have the Omega versus all, so if you want to use some of the solitary stuff to play against everybody. Then finally at the end, we'll look at the crossover with Black Rose Wars and Sin Tempor. I am not going to get super in-depth on every single rule in these like I do at my first videos. I do the overview of the rules of the game, because if you want to know how to play every little part of Solitaire, every single little part of campaign, buy the game. Because you have to own the game to play it. The first one's to kind of get you into the game. This, you kind of need that. We're going to go over enough so you understand what's going on, but I'm not going to read every single one of these little rules. The Ludus Magnus Studio website also has an little app page you can go to, which will let you download this book if you want to see what those rules are in more in depth, to know whether you want to pick it up or try and adapt it for yourself. So just go ahead and say that. So what we have there. So a solitary mode, the machinations of the Omega Fraternity, represented by a deck of cards called the Omega Decks. We're going to get this big giant deck of extra cards. We describe the action carried by the Omega boss during the game. Omega will collect and steal information cubes by placing them on his Tome of Secrets. This is more filling cubes and more powerful it becomes. To best play solitaire game of Dungeonology, it's good to use the following main effects: boss and main effects. Other advanced rules can be included if you're liking. So you can include other things if you like, such as level 4 floors, congregation students, research cards, allies, stuff like that. So simple to set up is place the boss model in there with the scholar. He counts as a scholar, so 2 scholars are always considered for the game. So that way, anytime it's asking you to draw per thing, he's counted as one of the players. Because again, you're playing solo. Then shuffle all the cards to create the Omega deck. Keep the Tome of Secrets close at hand, so you have a special Tome of Secrets card. Alright, so a couple other things that are going to be on here. Just quick things. Just shuffle the Omega deck. Keep the Tome of Secrets. Remove Jinx cards from the game that do not have the Omega symbol. So some from the core game have them. They're kind of plan that. And then like some from the new expansion have some as well. Game changes. Normal term. Then submit the thesis. So Omega stuff happens afterwards. Skip the pieces. You must have at least 2 stars per, but you must have at least 1 or more star, the number of black stars the Omega has. So you have to be more knowledgeable than him. End of the game. Normal rules, including maximum alert. Unless the Omega fills all the spaces, which happens. Player only wins if he successfully submits the thesis, and loses if, at the beginning of the Omega phase, all the spaces in the Tome of Secret are occupied by information cubes up to the Omega symbol. The game ends, and the scholar has not successfully submitted a thesis. So you have a couple of different stuff you can do in there. Suppress trick effects if they have the Omega thing in the bottom corner. So we're going to have some of those. So just if I grab some of these guys, these are some of the new ones. Do we have any Omegas? Yeah, so none of the Omega cards in here, or trick cards in the new set, have the Omega symbol. So it might be just stuff for the base game. Not for sure. But yeah, they kind of show it on there. Information cubes, he places them on Toma Secrets from the first base in the upper left going forward. If he has to drop them, he's always his choice. Some different stuff there. Espionage, reporting espionage action against him. Calculate 0.5 information cubes plus the alert modifier on the alert card. Yes, there's some different stuff you can do. We have some trick cards we can play around with, or some of his cards. So during his phase, this time I want to just brush through some of these. Playing additional after the turn ends. In the Omega phase, player draws a card from the Omega action deck. It applies the effects from top to bottom. The A is the number of students indicated from the university. It's drawn just like doing normal. But the scholar would get jinx cards if it needed be. B is movement through passage. So some might have some things to tell you to move around. So we'll see some of those. It's going to tell you how to kind of move through all those. C is teleport. So it might just teleport to a zone with the scholar. The effect is D. So most cards will have the effect. Some of them have effects in there. So if it doesn't say the other thing, it'll tell you what to do. Encounter, if he encounters it during the end of his move. So if he's moving around and he gets you like a boss, he does an encounter effect. The Black Star. If the Toma Secrets are black stars with the Omega reach, he places information cubes on the indicated space. Scholar becomes exalted. Scholar's exalted Omega forms is written in a section in addition to the encounter effect. They have 1-star double stars. If they have at least those many stars, he activates more stuff. So basically, the further you get through the game, he becomes more devious. We have sabotage effects. When Scholar declares a stealth value, you must try an Omega card to perform a sabotage effect. If indicated, the effect consists of one or more divinations to be performed. Aimed at the alert value, and the scholar needs to get their stealth value. So you have like that one has sabotage here, that one has it there. And then some might have an alert reaction. If the Omega is targeted by an effect of a trick card before applying the effects, must be revealed, and then some have an alert bonus up at the very top as well. So lots of times you'll just be playing these on his turn, which will be explaining how he's moving, what he's doing during the turn. If you encounter him, the sabotage will be if you're trying to do a thing, he's going to try and stop you. And reaction, if you target him, what's going to happen. So very, very simple. And we'll look at what those cards do in just a sec. But first we'll look at Omega Against All. And take advantage, I don't know why this page came before the other rules, but it did. Include the Omega and his deviousness in a normal game up there. So what we have in here is instead of the Tome of Secrets, we have 3 extra cards versus 2, versus 3, or versus 4 players. So it's going to have some different effects on those to play against them. And I think this is a cool idea, taking the solitaire mode and taking a game that doesn't have a solitaire mode, adding a solitaire mode, which is basically you're kind of playing against another AI character. But they also turn around making that additional thing something you can play against is kind of like a boss. But he is not the boss of the game. So he's in with the scholars, but he does not count as a scholar when his first build at the beginning of the game. Shuffle the Omega cards, create the Omega deck. Select the right Tome of Secrets for the game based on the number of players. Keep the Tome of Secrets at hand. Procedures normally have a couple of differences. Target Scholar. Any of the Omega cards that refer to a Scholar always targets your current player. Encountering Black Stars applies to each Scholar encountered by the Omega. The Black Star effect applies to each Scholar individually if they have more stars than the Black Star owner. Based on a star by a current Scholar, and Sabotage only obstruct the espionage actions that target Omega. End of the game, normal rules. Except Omega wins at the beginning of the phase. All the Tome of Secrets activate information cubes up to the Omega single or no one has got it. So, very interesting. So, yeah, let's take a look at some of these cards do. And then we'll have a little bit better idea of how the game is played. So, Tome of Secrets. It says, remove from the deck the jinx cards that do not have the Omega icon. Whenever a university is filled with students, count Omega as a scholar. So it's again, say if you have to draw something, you draw one for him as well. Omega suffers the effect of trick cards only if they have the Omega icon. Real Omega cards and perform sabotage after declaring each of your stealth values. There are 3 black stars, and there's the Omega symbol. So if we're playing with the other ones, we have says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. We get just basically more spaces for each one for versus 2. But he does not count as a scholar, otherwise lots of the, and you keep the jinx cards in the game. Versus 3, same thing, just more spaces, and for 4 players, just more spaces. So that's all it is for each one. But that's kind of cool that they added an extra little bonus card for each one. For the rest of the Omega deck, we have Vile Complacency. Encounter, discard tricks and or give information cubes to the Omega for a total of 3. These have black, draw a card. Omega steals information cubes of your choice, and for 2, reveal and apply the effects of the next Omega card. Sabination is divination 2 and then twice, and then reaction cancel that trick card. Shadows over the north. It's going to show how he's going to move through which exit. Collects information cubes in each zone it enters. Steals civilization information cube from you. If you can't, you get a stun token. And then discard 2 random trick cards. Collects information cubes in a zone where he stops. Collects all information cubes in a zone where he stops. The Shadows of the West. So it's like basically the same thing as the previous one. Except this one steals civilization cubes. And you go north. This one's going to have a moving west, but you steal militia. Shadows of the South, except you get worship. Shadows of the East, take the riches. No sign. Collects information cube. Encounter steals an information cube of your choice from each student. You don't immediately sacrifice. If you have no student sacrifice, draw a jinx card. Otherwise, you're going to just steal some more cubes. I'm not going to read through every one. You can pause it if you like to read every effect. Because lots of them are just steal the card or take a cube. Sacrifice a student or cancel the trick card at the bottom. We have creating secrets. So you're going to move up, down, up. Collects information in the zone he stops and puts information in that reserve. Encounter puts one random from yours in the reserve. Rock the Revolt. Puts one of your casting information cubes in reserve. You cannot. Puts it in the furthest right of these enter the reserve. Discard a random trick card. Leaping in the Shadow. Collects information cubes furthest to the right in the zone. If you can't, gain a stun token. Give an information cube of your choice. Double star wins as many zones as possible, the one in which Omega is located. Omega collects information cubes in all zones and all adjacent linked zones. The Spy Race. Draw and link as many zones as possible to the zone where Omega stops. Omega collects an information cube from the zones it stops in. Cool, and just collect more information cubes. Cut off the head. So lots of just, again, telling him what direction he's going or what he's doing. Mega stops moving. Move the boss or place if not played in its own zone. Activated, being activated by a current scholar. So it's kind of cool, just to activate bosses. Poisoning. Put all students in the bonfire in the reserve. Oh boy. Sacrifice student and get a stun token. Intrigue. Steals information to your choice. Discard 3 tricks. Encounter. Sacrifice your students. For each student you don't sacrifice, give an information cube to him. Planning. Black Star. Put in reserve information cube your choice on the noteboard. Discard trick cards of your choice. You have a maximum of 2 cards in your hand and reveal all effects of the next Omega card. The Puppet. Move 2 zones just exited by Omega. Put information cubes in the reserve. Crime. Puts in reserve all civilization cubes in the zone he enters. Encounter steals civilization cube. If not enters, discards 2 trick cards. And then we'll have some of these for each different color. So we have one for punishment is militia. The ritual is for worship. And robbery is for riches. Inexplicable plots. Reverse the order in which the information cubes in each zone in which Omega enters. Ooh, that's kind of neat. And then the last one is Assault. Move the boss or place it in play in the same zone. Cool. So yeah, nothing too egregiously difficult to look at or figure out, because again, this is for solo mode. So a lot of it's just like, he's gonna take a cube either from the zone or from you, and you can possibly try it, or you gotta give one up. I like the fact that there are, however many cards there are of these, but they're all different. I appreciate when the game designers make a deck of cards, a deck of cards like this, but they make all different cards. It'd been easy just to be like, oh, here's 5 cards and we made 5 copies of each, and here's your 25 card deck. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so there's 20 of these. But yeah, that could have been easy enough. They could have been like, here's 5 different cards, 4 copies of each, or here's 4 cards with 5 copies of each. They're just going to do the same thing. Or here's a bunch that are all the same, but like, here's like, it could have been like, here's this one that moves them up like you get at the beginning. Moves up and you do Civilization. Here's one that's left for this one, right for that color. Like each color. And then did that, and then did the other one that did it. Okay, so there's, 10 of our cards right there. And then the other ones were just like, oh, here's 3 other cards of each of the same, that have the exact same effects. Right? And they could have been like, the other ones are all basically the same, just a different direction, a different color, otherwise all the other texts are the same. But it's nice when they do a bunch of different stuff like that. I really honestly appreciate it. So that's that. And it's cool that we can also use this to make the regular game a little bit harder too. If you want to add this extra mode in there, to be like, hey, we're playing the regular mode, but now we get to add this extra guy in here that's going to be doing additional stuff as well as against the boss. It's very cool. Alright, then the other mode we have is the campaign mode. So basically the idea of the campaign mode is you're going to play a bunch of games in a row. So we have this big giant thing here. You're going to play a bunch of games in a row for 12 months, one for each thing, and who won each game, what score points, what did you get, this and that, and then total up your bonuses at the end. Each one is going to just have a little extra twist to the game mode. It's going to tell you kind of like, play with this stuff in this mode. Like, here's this, play with these rules. This character, this mode, this thing. Then do the next one, So technically, you could go a campaign mode by just, hey, I'm going to play any number of games and keep track of my points. This is just kind of giving you a specified order with maybe little tiny rule changes. So just look at the end of the campaign. So it says, at the end of the 12th scenario campaign, August, must be determined the winner elected to become the new professor of Dungeonology. Each column in the tracking position at the bottom indicates victory points. The value must be multiplied by the number of results obtained by each teacher in a column. Each entry result is ranked as half a victory point. Once you have attained the victory points of the teacher's column, add them all together. Whoever has the most final points wins. So winning 1 or 2 games, a couple of games isn't going to necessarily win you the game overall. So what's our preparation for this? Use this copy sheet on here, or a photocopy, or go download it. Players represent teachers. Write the names of the player and the teacher space. Each of these has a column. Color triangle necessary to determine which teacher is selected in case of randomization. Each teacher must always use a notebook the same color triangle during the campaign. When all players select table, randomize the teacher. Take all available scholar cards, excluding Enrique's, which cannot be used in this mode because he's eventually a boss. Start the randomized teacher. Continue to the left. Each player chooses a scholar card for himself. Proceed this way until the teacher has 2 scholar cards. This will be the teacher's team for the game. The teachers chosen for their team, put them on the notepads. So, you're going to pick what your character is, what your team is, I guess, if you want to name your team, and which 2 scholars you have. And each one has 6. So it looks like you're going to play 6 games with one, 6 with the other. So that's kind of a little neat idea. Now in this box, there is 7 scholars. And then the base game also has another 4. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Minus Enrico, so actually 10. So there's enough to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can play a 4-player game just fine with this and the core set. If you want to play more players, you're going to actually need the Aramacus expansion, which has the 2 extra note boards and the extra randomization cards, which would get you another 4 characters, which will be enough to have 14 characters. So then if you buy a couple of the other expansions, I think you're going to end up with a handful of like maybe 2 or 3 other characters total. So you got a ton of extras by the end if you're playing this way, but very cool. Again, the less players you're playing as, the more different options you'll have. So in the campaign modes, feature base 12 scenarios representing 12 months of the year. During the game, instructions given the scenarios must be followed and indicated must be mutual agreement on which advanced optional rules to include. Note that some of the scenarios, if maximum or optional is used, it also shows which panic cards are to be used. Choose which of your scholars will participate in the game. Mark that you've used them on the campaign sheet. Spend support points at the beginning of the game to benefit the scholars. So we have some cool stuff there. So at the beginning of each game, teachers may obtain, based on the ranking of the game, number of support points noted in the campaign sheet. End of the game before playing the first turn. Start at the first player. Each turn can spend support points by buying a single bonus from those below. Some of the bonuses show advantage or dependence in the brackets among those on the current scenarios. Otherwise, they cannot be chosen. So cool. So you have specialization. Using main effects and specialist cards. Shuffle the deck of your in-turn cards. Draw 2, choose 1, put the other back in the deck. Your scholar starts the game with the in-turn in his possession. Student. Take 1 student from the reserve. Your scholar leaves with this additional student. Congregation. Take a student congregation model from the reserve. Your scholar leaves with that congregation student. Study bonus. Your scholar starts with the extra study bonus by 1. Or trick card, add a trick card. So nothing egregious, right? Nothing too terrible. Either you get to start with an intern, start with an extra student, start with a special congression student, start with an extra bonus point, or start with an extra card. So that's not too bad. At the end of each game, determine the rank teacher marks on the campaign sheet. Scholar unable to submit the thesis puts any results contributed to the end of the game. Each teacher earns SP based on the parameters. Teacher participated gains 1, so no matter what, you can always gain at least 1 student. Submit a thesis, you gain 1, so if you do that, you can also gain specialization or congregation or trick card. The first student gains 3, and the second one gains 2. Now, it does say, though, you only buy a single bonus point. So, like, for example, if you're the first ranked character participated and you submitted a thesis, you'll have 5 points. You can only spend 1 of them. So you could go ahead and get whatever you want, but then you're going to have extra. So that way, if the next game, let's say you completely biffed it and you didn't do any of that, and you only got 1 point, even if you spent 3, you still would have had 2 points left to get you another 3 right off the bat. Cool. So there we go again, kind of take a look at that. So yeah, you're going to go through each one, like what rank did you get, and at the bottom, you'll get multipliers for different stuff. Victory point totals for each one. So again, you get times 4 if you're in first place, times 3 for each one. And then half a point, half if you didn't submit anything. So if like at the end of the game you had 10 points, you'd have 40 points. If you had 10 points but you failed, you'd have, 5 points. So yeah, very cool. Alright, so what are the actual campaigns to do? This can go through a lot of the Kickstarter stuff. So preliminary research, and I'm not going to read through all of these, obviously, because we'll be here forever. Advanced Level 1's alert card introductory games. Just basically just learning how to play the game, starting that off. Then you're going to jump in, you're going to do Beer Fest, which you're going to fight against Luca. It's on easy mode. November's the concert. Fight against Hypnicus Tapper Garcia, so you're going to fight against that specific one. We're also going to add in a couple of rules. Winter is coming, fight against Frito on medium. And use the Winter is coming boss mode on his card. when we jump into January, we have the Initiation. So I'm going to fight against Witch Raganella. Optional advanced rule, you can add maximum effects and main effect to your cards and maximum words. So you can opt to not use main effects, which is kind of interesting. Omega, February's Omega to the rescue, so you're going to fight the Mentalist Omega. Again, kind of neat that you can do congregations in here, alert cards. At the end, if you want to have that, and main effect cards. You can opt to not use the main effects of trick cards, which I find very cool for the campaign. They're not just forcing you to use everything. It's not like you want to play a campaign, you have to include everything in the game. So march on the temple, we have to fight against Enrico. This is why he can't be included, because you have to fight him as a boss, and then basically be like, what's that person supposed to do if they don't have them? Now, my one workaround with this would be is if someone's like, I really want to be able to use Enrico for this mode, is if you get to, when you get to the March campaign, then is whoever character has them has to obviously choose their other character, and that's just what it would have to be. So we have Spring Festival against Marcelino, who uses the hunting eggs. So you're basically playing against all the bosses of this expansion. May the Catacombs, so we have that. We have against the Shadow Lord. In June, we're going to go against the Future Man of Judas. Does add 4 zones. July, we have the Basilisk and the Stone Brood, which are fighting the Mother Basilisk, specifically. I like that you can add in the Omega against all in there if you want to play with that. And then August, we have the Goddess and the Kraken, which is Cilia and Cardi, which are our final bosses of the game. So yeah, that's pretty cool that we have the ability to play a campaign, to play against all the different bosses of this game, including the base set, some different modes. Now, the only thing that would have also been neat is if they had, and I get you don't want to add expansion stuff in here for that, but they would have had an optional rule on here being like, if you would like to play with the expansion characters, because like we have Cersei, we have Leonardo, we have the triple threat goblins or Spriggans. So yeah, we have a couple other different bosses you can add into the game. Plus, we technically also have, with the unruly students, you can play as the 4 main characters as bosses or dual bosses in there. It would have been neat if they had optional rules to be like, hey, if you'd like to swap out this boss for this, but maybe be like, you can only swap out one of these for this one, like maybe the one of the first 4 for this, or these ones for that. That would have been kind of neat as well. Alright, so the last thing we're going to go through is the crossover material. Alright, so we have a couple of stuff for crossovers. We have Sin Tempor, which is the very first one of the first games. One of the first games, chronologically at least, in the Nova Eactus Chronicles. So we're going to have a couple of cards in there. We have a special brand new Kronos Crown, and we're going to have Yoka. I do not own Sim Tempor as of this video, so I can always kind of read what the cards do and kind of understand. But you can always jump to their websites to read more about how each of them work. But then we also have stuff for Black Rose Wars, which is going to add some new familiars, and some different evocation cards, as well as a Forgotten spell. So we have a couple of new things there. Now, the Black Rose Wars one can be used with any of the Black Rose Wars games. Black Rose Wars regular, revised, duels, any single one you can kind of add them in as the rules apply. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So first of all, we have for Sin Tempor, flip this down, is we have Yoka, which we saw in the previous video. So you have a little Yoka here, which is based off of Yogurt from Spaceballs. He's a familiar, which can attach to other characters, as selling stuff. Yoka can move using his master's AP on the runner's skill. Yoka can end his movement in a square occupied by an enemy troop. If the enemy starts to turn the same square as Yoka, they gain a stun token. Gadget found: when his master kills an enemy troop the same square as Yoka, he automatically gets a resource card. So cool. And usually what they have to do is just to move around the board and help out your allies. Opposite the card just shows his picture. Now, in the original Sin Tempor, one of the stretch goal bonuses was a couple of, again, parody members of the Spaceball crew, so it'd be kind of fun to be able to add him in with those. Then we have this card here, which is the Chrono Crown. Has a couple of symbols on the back. Has a 2 and a 2. I don't know what these symbols exactly mean, but we'll take a look at what this is. It's a psionic card. It's an accessory. Kronos, of course, is a big giant god that Jukas loves to fight with. Time Distortion, AP 3, range of 4. Once for a mission, you can target another hero. Move target's activation token up to 5 sectors backwards on the momentum. This is like, if you're not familiar with the game, there's a giant sort of clock that determines the turn orders. If you're used to like playing tactics style games, just imagine that where you have a battle order, and like if you do a quick attack, you get to move like 1 space, you get to attack again quick or activate a second time. If you use a charge attack, like a mage, sometimes does takes 3 or 4 things, then you have to wait a little bit longer. This is the idea, is you have a giant clock you're kind of playing on, which is the momentum board. So this is basically moving someone back on the board so they can perform a big attack, and then you can move them back so that they can activate again quicker. The chosen activation token cannot be placed before the sector of the activation token of the owner of this equipment is located. So you can't move them back in time any farther than where you're at. But it's a pretty neat little mechanic, extra card to have. So that's basically half of that. Nothing crazy. For Black Rose Wars, we have the Basilisk, which is the Forgotten spell, which is a Petrifier. So you can add this into your Forgotten deck when you get to obtain one by performing an action on the Black Rose Wars tile, or another thing. You get to activate this. So it's a contingency spell, targets anywhere, targets any element. Summon Basilisk in the target room, it activates immediately. Of course, we just summon the big giant Basilisk monster to fight, which is really fun. If we flip it to the other side, we have place 3 instability in the target room, then 1 instability in all adjacent rooms, then convert each room where you have placed at least 1 with this spell. So yeah, drop 3 in there, and then now you can also steal somebody else's stuff. So it's kind of neat, different thing. If we summon him, we're going to get his little evocation card. And now, these are going to look like the original Black Rose Wars, not the updated versions we would see like in Rebirth, because this came out before Rebirth was around. But all the effects still work the same. It's a beast type, has a movement of 2, it attacks for 3 at 1 model, doesn't even care who it is, has 8 health. Instead of your attack, you can instead of attacking, you can place 3 in that zone, 3 things there. So that's kind of neat. So he's going to help you with this and his other card. The idea is either you're going to have this big guy run around and fight for you, or you're going to be able to like convert stuff a bunch. So that's definitely a cool little idea. The next card we have is Scholar Andromeda. So we do have the miniature from here. We can use her. So she's a construct. So this is an alternate version of the Andromeda evocation. When a mage summons Andromeda, you may choose to summon the Scholar 1 instead. Only 1 Scholar Andromeda can be present in the lodge at a time, using the Andromeda Major provider's box to represent her in the lodge. So this is kind of a neat idea. It should have been interesting if they would have expanded upon a little bit more, and they did somewhat. There are some characters in Black Rose Wars, such as like Jukas, just to summon a alternate version of Rubido, I believe it is. And then there's even like the one altar, which has a Forgotten card, which uses the regular miniatures. I think it's the Mutant altar. But yeah, kind of the idea of like, hey, we have some like promo cards to be alternate versions of the characters we have. So if you're summoning this guy, you can summon this version instead. And it'd be kind of neat for some of the other crossover stuff as well. Like, I can imagine a couple different ones that could be neat would be like stuff with regular Nova Electus. There's some of the guards and stuff, which could be kind of alternate versions of some of the stuff in Black Rose Wars. Or in Requiem coming out, they have Moors, but this is a version of Moors that is different than the Moors from the Horsemen of Apocalypse expansion. But same named character, because if you have a summon, it would be summoning a Moors card. You could summon either different one, which has slightly different stats. But yeah, kind of a neat little idea. So what does she have? She has movement of 2, she has no attack but health of 3. Instead of attacking, you can convert 0 or you can activate a room. So it's kind of a neat little mechanic. Awesome. So our last crossover card is our familiar, which we have Nina, the Manticore Beast. And I did mention during the last video when we were talking about these little familiars, it'd be kind of neat if they could cross over the other direction. With the familiars from Black Rose Wars coming into this game as little allies you could have used in something that would have been kind of cool. But I like that we got this as an extra one. Especially since all the other allies are always 3 different ones, it's kind of a little bit more unique one. So the allies have a couple of cool abilities on here. They have either ability if they're roaming or ability if they're attached. And that's always cool about these bases, is they attach by being right next to them, then they move together as one unit. And this one, they're kind of guarding them. So, if she's guarding them, it says, you get 1 attack, and you can convert up to 2 different targets, damage on 2 different targets within 1 model of this model. If it's running off by itself, it has 2 movement, and it can attack for 2 in its zone. If Nina is near a room, its attack becomes 4. So if it stays in the same room, it has a higher attack, but you can also send it out to attack. It has 3 little health points it can take, and it has an activation token. So we have the activation token there, so if it does stuff, it can get flipped over, and it has an X on it to show that it's been used. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we have for there. But there is a couple other things here. So Nina the Manticores are familiar summoned by mages, trusted and powerful allies. These are familiar, check out the thing. To use a Manticore Black Rose War, you need a Manticore miniature, a familiar card, and familiar activation token. 7 miniature eggs from this game, 1 white cube, and 6 black cubes supplied by this box. Use the following rules to indicate this game. Setup. Once the game is finished before starting the game, the player at the crown prepares 7 eggs by inserting 1 white cube and 6 black cubes into the other. Once ready, mix the eggs, choose one of the rooms. Colors, place the eggs in the rooms of those colors, 1 per room, and place the last one in the Black Rose room. Unlike other familiars, the Manticore is not summoned from its room. So most of them, they'll have a special room of their familiar room, which you place on the board, and they'll say summon a Draco or summon a Hydra. This one instead, you have the eggs scattered around the room. When a wizard activates a room containing an egg, instead of activating the room, open the egg. If it finds a black cube, gets 1 point. And discards the egg. When he finds a white cube of the Manticore, he discards it and gains the familiar. So cool. And then here's the little egg that you have, and you pop it open, you can place a cube in there. And then we have the 2 black and white cubes you can use. So that's kind of a different, neat way to be able to summon a different character. And this would be kind of a cool mechanic as well, since you have this. You could potentially use this as a rule. If you don't want to use that familiar's room, you could use this as a way to summon any of the other familiars. The original Black Rose Wars has, I think, 4 of them. It's a Hydra, Dracos, Griffins, and one other one. A Cerberus. But I think there's some other ones that have come out over time from some expansions and promos. And then there's some that are like attached to other characters and stuff. But that could definitely be a neat idea. And then with this core game, with Dungeonology, you actually have multiple color cubes plus Black Rose, where you have a bunch too, but you might not want to spend those. But you can even assign 1 to each color, like Hydra are blue colors, you could assign them a blue cube. Cerberus are, I think, like black, you could give them the black cubes. One's each different color, right? You could have the 7 eggs, you could put different colored cubes in each egg, have them around the board, and then, hey, you open up that, you get whatever, summon is in there. So that could be a cool way of having multiple different familiars in one game without having to replace the tiles on the board to just be familiar tiles. then that way you have the other activation skills and stuff as well. So otherwise, because once you use it, oh great, now I just have another familiar, and that's all that tile is good for. You might not want to waste time activating. So that'd be kind of a neat little mechanic where you could combine these games together. Now here's always one thing just about these crossovers that's kind of a bummer, is because if you have both of these games, now you have to have, where do you put your components? Do you put them with this, or do you put them with the other one? I guess it depends on which one you play more, or where you might use the stuff at. But that's kind of the things, like these eggs for this. If you want to just include these cards in there, you have to include all the eggs with it as well. But then that literally shuts down a couple of the different modes. Although the Basilisk also uses the eggs in Dungeonology. So there's kind of that. So that's sort of the downside about crossing over between all these Nova Yexus Chronicle games, Black Rose Wars, Nova Yexus Tempor, all Runar, all these other things. Because if you have guys that work in miniatures or components that work in multiple games, now you have to either try and buy a second copy to have them in both games stored separately, or you have to keep moving the components back and forth, or you have to have some massive storage that holds everything, like all the miniatures and stuff for all the games in one area, and then everything else. So it depends on how you do it. The future releases of games after this started getting better, where they're putting the crossover stuff in separate boxes. So if you don't own both games, you can still purchase them. Nova Yexus Renaissance did a Magister set. Runar did special sets where they actually then also had an extra box set where you could pick up just the crossover stuff, but then you could also pick up a box of the miniatures if you wanted to have both. If you wanted to just have it for the one set to add to that game, you could do that. Or you could have just by the box, but you just want the crossover and use the stuff from the miniature. But if you didn't have the other game, you weren't expected to also have all those extra cards sitting around. But definitely a cool idea. Personally, I can almost see, if at the right price, I could see picking up a second set of these, because then you could have an egg set in each one. The Basilisk would also be cool to have, paint 2 different colors. Plus having maybe multiple Manticores might be kind of a neat idea. Add 2 white cubes in there, because that way if you're playing the other familiars, you have up to 3 versions. But, that's always a personal preference and additional stuff. Alright, that is all we have for Dungeonology, the Expedition, the Rocca Civetta expansion. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you checked out all the rest of the videos. If they ever do any other crossovers with this, I will definitely let you know, and we'll hopefully do some other stuff. They may have done some stuff, they may have occasionally added some cards in some of the Ashes promo magazines, so if you haven't checked out those, check out that. I occasionally try and add all the promos together, but as I get more and more of these older games, those cards make more sense to me to read, so I can kind of maybe go back and do a revised video with some of those. See you guys later. Bye.